Hello everyone, my name is Jesus Nava. I'm in the Client Training and Education Department here at TradeStation, and I will be your host and presenter for today's training material. I want to welcome all of you. I am broadcasting live from the city of Plantation right here in Florida. So welcome everyone to this Learning TradeStation class, designed to help you better utilize the power of TradeStation. But today's topic is Essentials of the TradeStation desktop, and these are our class objectives. We are going to explain the download and installation process, the differences between live and simulated trading, talk about the components that make up the platform and the apps that are in the launcher, differences between Windows, Workspaces, and desktops, give you a little bit of information about window linking and how to organize your windows. How can you customize the layout of TradeStation, including toolbars? How to back up and restore your custom work? And then towards the end, we're going to show you how to run macros using hotkeys and toolbars. So before we proceed, here are some important disclosures. Every symbol and idea that we talk about here today is for demonstration and educational purposes only. It is not a recommendation of TradeStation. Online trading is not suitable for everyone, and it should only be done with risk capital. All right, let's get started. I'm going to switch over here to my TradeStation platform. And the first topic or objective of this presentation is to talk a little bit about the download and installation. Everyone should have received a TradeStation username and password. You can install and download TradeStation on any computer that you have. If you'd like to install TradeStation on a brand new computer, the URL that you need to go to is www.tradestation.com/download. Once you go to that URL, the page is going to prompt you for the username and password. Let me just go ahead and type that in. Well, you have the green button that takes you to the download page, and if I click here, it'll provide me with the options that are available for my login. I see the new TradeStation at the top, and I see the older or the legacy version of TradeStation at the bottom. Some of you may not be enabled for the new TradeStation yet. However, we do have an email address that you can send a request to in order to be enabled. The email address is preview@tradestation.com. And when you send this request to preview@tradestation.com, make sure to include your customer ID and your network ID numbers in that email. You're going to find that information from the help menu and clicking on About TradeStation. This window will give you your customer ID right here at the bottom, customer number, and your network ID. So feel free to do that if you'd like to get enabled for the new version of TradeStation. But once on the download page, let me just go back in there. Okay, you can download either version of TradeStation. If you scroll down, you also have information about our mobile offerings, including the apps for the phones. We have one for an iOS, and we have a version for Android. And you also have access to TradeStation's web trading, which is our web platform. All the ones that you see down here are different than the software or the desktop version that you install on the computer, which is the one that I'm going to demonstrate today. On this download page on the left-hand side, we have great information as well. If you go to System Requirements, it'll give you an idea of what is necessary in regards to computing power in order to run TradeStation. And the way that we present these requirements is in the form of what type of user you are. So if you're, here are the user profiles at the bottom. If you're a standard user or a power user, you're going to understand that you probably need more computing power in order to run TradeStation. So these are our minimum requirements depending on the type of user you are. So come here and take a look at these requirements. We also have some other links, some technical specifications and installation notes and best practices that provide you additional information during the upgrade process, which I think it's really important as well. All right, you can download and install TradeStation on as many computers as you need to. The only limitation is that you can only be connected on one TradeStation at a time. If you do require to run TradeStation on multiple computers simultaneously, you'll need to have an additional TradeStation username and password, and you may call the client services department to find out how you can get this additional login. There are some additional fees and some data charges that you need to be aware of, so make sure that you talk to client services before you go this route. But if you only have one username and password, you can install TradeStation on different computers, but only one can be connected at one time. All right, let's go ahead and close this window and switch over here to TradeStation. So this is my TradeStation platform. I am already connected. I'm going to talk a little bit about live and simulated environment. I am connected to a simulated environment, and the way that I know this is because I look at the bottom of my TradeStation and I see two indicators, one for my trading and the other for my data. The data that TradeStation gets from the network is real data. The only part that is simulated is the order entry. But at a glance, you can always look at the bottom of your TradeStation and know for a fact which environment you're connected to. Take a look. When I double click on one of these little circles at the bottom of TradeStation, they'll turn red. I just double clicked on them. It means that you're disconnected from the network. If you double click again, it'll ask you to enter your username and password. Let me go ahead and enter my password. And I wanted to point out these two buttons. You have a button for live trading and you have a button for simulated trading. We get into a habit of pressing the enter key when we type in a password. If you do that, TradeStation will default to your live trading account. So if you really want to access your simulated environment, make sure you take your mouse and you click on this button that says simulated trading so that you know for a fact that you're entering a simulated trading environment and the trades and the orders are not going to be real. This is important when you're trying to learn TradeStation and you want to practice functionality. You do not want to risk your capital or your real money when you're learning TradeStation. Once you have a handle on the functionality, then go ahead into your live account and place some real trades. When you first come over here to TradeStation, let's talk a little bit about the components of the platform and where you get started. The first thing you see is a workspace that has a lot of information. It's called the TradeStation Today workspace, and you see the tab at the bottom of TradeStation, right here at the bottom. It gives you the most recent video that's been uploaded to the website. It has a counter for the market close. It has a section down here for recommended and recent workspaces. Right here in the middle, we have our social feed. On the right, we have a calendar for upcoming events. And then at the bottom over here, we have what's new. If you want to see what enhancements are available on this new update of TradeStation. One of the nice things that we have on the new TradeStation is that updates happen automatically. So you know for sure you're always on the most updated version. If you want to make sure, and you go to the Help menu, you're going to find an Update Manager that allows you to check to see if there's any available updates for your platform. But this TradeStation Today workspace is very handy because it tells you what's going on at TradeStation today. It's updated on a daily basis, and it's a great way for you to know exactly what events are upcoming or what's happening in our social feed. For now, I'm going to close this workspace. So at the bottom, from the tab, I can just right-click on the tab and select Close Workspace to remove it. When you don't have any workspaces open, notice what happens at the top. You get what's called the Apps Launcher, giving you an opportunity to open up any of the apps that are available in TradeStation. I'm going to start off with a chart analysis so that I can open up a window. And that's a chart analysis right here on my screen. Another other components here of the platform is the menu bar at the very top. You have File, Edit, View, Window, and Help. Very similar to all Windows applications. But below that, there's 3 bars that roll over when you hover over the tab. So if I roll over or if I hover over Apps, it opens up the bar. If I hover over Trade, it opens up the Trade bar. And if I hover over Position Graph bar, it'll show my positions in the Position Graph bar. So these are rollover tabs that can be docked if you want to. So all those bars that you hover over can be docked by using this pin. There's a push pin right here on the top left corner that if I click on, it'll dock the bar at the top of TradeStation. Now they are designed as rollover tabs so that they don't occupy a lot of space on your desktop. And that's why they were designed that way. But if you do need one of the bars to be docked and always visible at the top of TradeStation, then you can just click on that push pin. Like for example, the Position Graph bar, I like to have it at the top because it gives me a quick way to look at my positions and see how they're doing. So here I click on the push pin to auto hide it. But whenever I need it, I can just go over here and have it roll over for me. Inside the View menu, you have the tabs accessible as well for you to be able to view them or hide them. So if I click on the Trade bar, you can see how the Trade bar just disappears from here, from the list of 3. But I can go to the View menu and click on Trade bar to have it pop up one more time. Okay. One more thing that I wanted to show you is the status bar at the bottom of TradeStation. The status bar provides you with information about your account, your purchasing power, how many positions you have open, and a real-time open P&L with closed P&L. Okay, the difference here is that for any positions that are open, those are open P&L, and anything that you have closed or exited today, you'll see a closed P&L for today. In the new version of TradeStation, the Workspace bar has been combined with the status bar. So if you're the type of user that has a lot of workspaces open, see every time that I click on the plus sign over here, it creates a new workspace. If you're the type of user that has multiple workspaces and you're running out of space over here, you can separate the workspace bar from the status bar. The way you do that is by going up here to the View menu, and there's a section here called the Platform Toolbars. And you see on this menu there's 3 options. You can have the workspace bar and the status bar together, or you can have the status bar, the workspace bar has been separated from the status bar, and the status bar is on its own. Now it's just an additional functionality for you to be able to have all your workspaces displayed on one bar if you kind of run out of space there. So let me go back to the View menu, Platform Toolbars, and I'm just going to choose the combined view, which is the default view, Workspaces bar and Status bar. Let's talk a little bit about Windows, Workspaces, and desktops and try to understand the difference between them. Every time you open up a new workspace, the apps launcher at the top will roll over for you to choose an app. But let me go ahead and close this untitled workspace by right-clicking on it and click on Close Workspace, because I already had a workspace with a chart open. This is considered a window. And if I go to the Apps tab again and I click on Chart Analysis a second time, I'll get a second window. One thing that is really useful in TradeStation is that these windows can be moved around and they can be resized to any shape and form. You're going to have the ability to open as many windows as you need. So if I come over here to the apps and I click on chart analysis a third time, now I have 3 different charts right here on the screen. A way to organize your windows in TradeStation is to go to the window menu and click on Arrange All. When I do that, take a look. My windows are organized and it finds a space for each one. And it pretty much fills up the whole workspace area. And as a TradeStation user, you're going to start creating your layouts this way. I'm going to go ahead and save this workspace. I'm going to right click on the tab and click on Save Workspace. And I'm going to call this 3 charts. I click OK or Save. And you can take a look at the bottom. The tab has been saved. Think of a workspace as a container. It's going to contain as many windows as you create inside this workspace. Let's say, for example, that I have my 3 windows right here on display. I want to leave it the way it is, and I just want to create a different layout. I click on the plus next to the tab of 3 charts, and this opens a new untitled workspace where I can create other types of windows. Let's say that I want to open up a time and sales. All right, and I come over here for apps one more time, and let's say that I want to do a market depth window. All right, here it is. There's no data for that symbol. This is $INDU, but let me just change the symbol to something like Bank of America. Let me go to the window menu and click on Arrange All. So notice how the windows are put side by side, and then I can come here and save my workspace again. And I can call this Time and Sales Market Depth, empty. Save it, and you see how the tab at the bottom has that name. Keep in mind that all the workspaces are going to be saved to the local computer. So TradeStation doesn't see your workspaces. These are not saved somewhere in a cloud. They're going to be saved in the local hard drive. Now, Mark is asking a good question. Can the windows be detached? One of these windows be taken out of the workspace to a different screen? The answer to that is no. The windows are going to be contained within a particular workspace. Something you can do, though, if I come over here to the File menu at the very top of TradeStation, you see that there's a concept of desktops. And if I click on New Desktop, this will open up an additional instance of TradeStation. So let me just go ahead and do that for you. Let me resize this so that you can see it on the screen. I have 2 monitors on this computer, and that's why TradeStation opened up on my second monitor. But if I pull this up, you're going to see that this is a totally new TradeStation, allowing creating new windows here. So I can click on Chart Analysis right here. So you can have multiple instances of TradeStation on the same computer, and I can move this desktop to another monitor if I had, a second, a third, or how many monitors you have on a computer, and lay out your TradeStation that way. So even though you're not able to detach a window and take it outside of the workspace, you can create a new desktop, put it somewhere else on your computer on a separate monitor, and then open up different workspaces there. And this is the concept of desktops. Okay, let's go ahead and X this out. See, every desktop has its own X at the top right. And when you do that, it's going to ask you, okay, do you like to close this desktop or all TradeStation desktops? Because when you click on an X at the top right, it's going to think that you want to exit out of TradeStation. In this case, I just want to close this desktop. So I just wanted to demonstrate the ability for you to create these different desktops in TradeStation. I'm going to choose not to save it. I have my 2 tabs at the bottom, these 2 workspaces that I can switch to back and forth. Now, let's talk a little bit about window linking, because that's something that is going to save you a lot of time. For that, I'm going to create multiple charts here. So I'm going to go to File. I can create the charts. Let me show you different ways in which you can do this. If you go to, of course, you have all the windows that you can open up in TradeStation. But sometimes, if you have to open multiple charts in sequence, sometimes clicking on apps, clicking on chart analysis, clicking on apps, clicking on chart analysis may be a little bit cumbersome, or at least annoying if you have to do that multiple times. If you go to the File menu and you go to the New Application menu, these are the same apps that are available in the Apps Launcher. Point out is that there's a hotkey combination next to a lot of these apps. So if you look at chart analysis, if you hold down Control-Alt and you press the C, it'll give you a new chart. So if you don't want to go to the menus and click on the actual app button, you can just remember the hotkey and then just press the hotkey on your keyboard and it gives you a chart. So I know that a new chart is Control-Alt-C. So I'm going to create 3 additional charts. Control-Alt-C, I clicked once, gives me 1 chart. I'll do Control-Alt-C again. So I have a 4th chart, and I'll do Control-Alt-C. All right, so let me go to the window menu again, and I'm going to click on Arrange All. One thing that occurs here in TradeStation, and you may like it or not like the functionality, personally, and that's just a personal choice, and you're going to see that a lot of things in TradeStation is about personal choice and how it works best for you. But one thing that I do not like is when I click on a window here, like for example, if I want to click on this center chart and I click on it, there's a shifting of the candles because it allows the toolbar at the top to appear. The new version of TradeStation has the toolbar inside the app. On previous versions of TradeStation, the toolbar was always at the top, but now we've incorporated this toolbar inside of the window so that you have easy access to all the formatting tools for that specific app. And it's only visible on the active window. So if I click on this window chart on the right, you're going to see how there's a shifting in the area so that it allows you to see the toolbar at the top. If you want to avoid that shifting, you have to turn on a setting that allows you to see that toolbar across all different bars. That's going to take up more space on your layout, but sometimes it's something that you would want to have. So if I come over here to the View menu at the top of TradeStation, and I go to Application Toolbars, you're going to see that it's only showing the Application Toolbar on the active window. If I say Hide All, you're going to see how the Application Toolbar is gone from this window. And if I click on a different window, it's going to be gone from that window as well. If I go to the View menu again and I go to Application Toolbar and I say Show All, you're going to see the Application Toolbar appears on all the windows right here on my workspace. You see the title bar is this bar at the top that tells you information about what the app is. If I click on a different window, you see how the title bar appears again. Now, if you want the title bar to always be visible so that there's no shifting whatsoever, go to the File menu, go to Preferences, and click on Desktop. From here, in the View tab, there's the title bars. By default, it only shows the title bar on the active window. But if I want the bar on the windows selected above, and all the windows are selected, once I click OK, it'll display that title bar on all the different windows on my TradeStation. Now there's no shifting whatsoever. When I click on a chart, it just highlights it. You can see like a lighter border around the window letting you know that that's the active window. So if I click on this one on the right, you can see how the lighter border is highlighting that chart on the right. Okay, I wanted to enable these title bars because I want to talk a little bit about window linking. Window linking are the buttons you see right here on the title bar, and they allow you to connect windows together so that when you make a change of a symbol, it changes the symbol across those different windows. If I click on the S, which is a link for symbol, that's what the S stands for, it's going to turn on the link button, and it'll choose the first color available. So if I choose, or if I click on the S across the top 3 charts and make them the same color, all the top 3 windows are linked. So let's go ahead and try that. I'm going to change this chart right here on the right-hand side to Bank of America. If I change the symbol that to Bank of America, you can see that all the charts that are linked under the same color are going to be changed to that symbol. If you want to create a separate group, I'm going to do that right here at the bottom. I can click on the S and turn it on. You can see how it switches to Bank of America, but I want to do a different color. So I'm going to go to the drop down and select yellow for this one. So once you select a color, you can just come here and click on the S because it'll remember the last color that you used, and it'll turn this into the yellow group. So now I can type in, let's say I type in Disney, and now you can see how Disney is changed across all the bottom three. Now I'm going to do a interval link so you see how that works. If I link these two charts on the left-hand side by interval, every time that I change the time frame here to, let's say, for example, I change these to daily, you see that this changes to daily and this changes to daily as well. Over here on the center charts, I'm going to go to the drop-down and select a different color. I'm going to do this as a darker blue interval link. And when I change the time frame of one, let's say that I change this to 30 minutes, this changes to 30, and this changes to 30. And I'll do the same thing here, but I'll choose a different color. This will be a yellow, and the yellow over here, so that if I change the time frame here to 1 minute, it'll be 1 minute here and 1 minute down here. So work with these links because it'll save you a lot of time. So now, if I click on this bottom chart and I change the symbol to Twitter, you can see that it changed across the three charts at the bottom. If I click on this middle chart, which is a 30-minute, and I change this to, let's say, a 30-second chart, then you can see how the center windows are the ones that are affected. One thing that you can do is make a chart a local listener or a global listener. By the way, the difference between a local link and a global link is that a local link works inside one workspace. A global link is going to work across multiple workspaces and across multiple desktops. So let me make this a global listener. And a listener is the type of window that listens to any change in symbol on any window. Take a look at the symbol here on this window is Bank of America, right? I'm going to go to my second workspace down here, my time and sales. And let's say that I want to see the time and sales for Facebook. I'm going to type in Facebook here. So now I see Facebook here on the time and sales. But since I changed the symbol and I made one of the windows a global listener, this change that I made here must have been heard by the other window. So if I go back to my first workspace, take a look. Over here on the top, I have because it listened to the symbol change on that other workspace. This is how the global workspace works. Let me go over here to my time and sales workspace. I'm going to create a new workspace because I want to show you something else. I'm going to click on chart analysis. And there's many things you can do to the toolbar here. So let's talk a little bit about customizing the toolbar. This is the default toolbar for TradeStation or the new TradeStation. Now you can customize this. The same happens for the platform toolbars. You can see how the look of TradeStation is very nowadays. It's simplified. So you don't have all these different buttons at the top that become very overwhelming. Now, you can go to the View menu, go to Platform Toolbars, you have a menu bar, and you have a main toolbar. If I choose the main toolbar, it'll add some additional buttons here at the top of my TradeStation. Ones that you probably are familiar with, like New Workspace or Open Workspace. This is Save All Workspaces and so forth. So this is some toolbars that you can enable and disable at the top of TradeStation. By default, they are turned off. Again, available from the View menu, Platform Toolbars, and it's called the Main Toolbar. Okay, so take a look at the buttons that are there and decide whether you want to keep that toolbar at the top or not. Every application that you open up in TradeStation, every app, like in this case Chart Analysis, will have an in-application toolbar, which only has tools that are related to the app that you opened, in this case Chart Analysis. Now, if you don't like the way that this toolbar is laid out, there's a little drop down at the very end that allows you to customize the toolbar. If I click on Customize, it'll take me to this dialog that allows me to remove things from the toolbar and add different things to the toolbar. Let's say, for example, instead of going to time frame and selecting daily, weekly, and monthly, you like to have these as separate buttons. Notice over here you have time frames that you can add as different buttons. So if I click on the daily, I can drag it up here and put it right next to my time frame. If I want to do weekly also, I just select weekly and I drag it up here, and you can start adding buttons to your toolbar. And I click it and I drag it up here. So you can add a lot of the commands that are here in the customized dialog up into the toolbar. And then don't forget to click on apply so that it saves those changes to your application. But if I click on the daily toolbar, it changes the chart to daily. If I see a weekly chart, and if I click on the 60, it'll change the view to a 60-minute interval. All the changes you make to the toolbar can be reset. If I go here to the drop-down, I can choose to reset the toolbar. It'll ask me, are you sure you want to do this? I'll say OK, and then the chart toolbar will be reset to default. If you are familiar with the legacy version of TradeStation and you want that same look and feel, you can go to the drop-down right here, click on Customize, and under the toolbars, there is the Charting Tools, which is the one that is currently selected. There's the Charting Tools Classic. So if I check this and uncheck the Charting Tools, take a look at what happens here. This is very similar to the toolbar that we had previously on TradeStation Legacy, or the older version of TradeStation. You can use it like this, or you can choose to use the one that we enhanced and simplified to make it easier to find the options or the customization tools that you're looking for. If you are the type of trader that uses a lot of drawing tools, you can put a check here for chart drawing tools, and you'll see the drawing tools appear vertically on the left side of every chart. If I apply this, even if I open up a new chart, let me go to Apps and click on Chart Analysis, all the changes that you apply on the toolbar will be saved and displayed on every new chart analysis that you create. Right, so feel free to go into this little drop-down and feel free to remove any buttons you don't need and add buttons that you need, and you can move them to the top. Let's talk a little bit about backup and restore TradeStation. One of the things that we sometimes overlook is saving our work. And this is something really important because you may spend a lot of time creating your workspaces and creating your layouts, especially if you do a lot of custom analysis techniques, a lot of custom drawings, and you do a lot of workspaces. If you spend a lot of time customizing your TradeStation, it is crucial that you save a copy of your work. Otherwise, you're open to software crashes, hardware crashes that could pretty much, affect your work, and you may lose it and have to recreate it all from scratch. To avoid that, TradeStation has a built-in backup and restore utility. I click on the File menu, go to Backup Restore TradeStation, and take a look. I click on Backup TradeStation. Right here in the middle, you have every single item that can be customized inside the platform. If you scroll down on this list, you're going to see workspaces around there. So every workspace that you create is going to be saved into this backup file. If you find yourself saving workspaces to a directory that is different than the default one, let's say that you like to save your workspaces to your desktop, the backup utility needs to know where those workspaces are. So if you do choose a different directory for saving your work, just click on this little ellipses on the right-hand side and choose the other directories where your workspaces are. So I can go to the top and say I have some workspaces on my desktop, click OK, and notice how the workspaces are not only going to be saved from the documents, which is the default directory of TradeStation, but it'll also look for workspaces on my desktop. So that's only if you choose a directory that's different than the default. Everything is checked. Even if you don't create something that is custom inside that category, the backup checks it by default so that you're always covered. Now, of course, you can come here and uncheck any of the items that you don't need. just to make the backup a little bit faster. But once you've selected everything you want to back up, there's a button here that says Start Backup. When you start the backup is going to be saved to your Documents folder. Inside your Documents folder is going to be a TradeStation folder where these archives are saved. These are separate from the installation of TradeStation. So let's say that down the road you choose to uninstall TradeStation, your archives are going to be saved. And that way you can restore them on a new installation. You can keep several versions of your archive, or you can even schedule what's called an automatic backup job so that you don't have to be concerned about forgetting to create a backup because you've set up a schedule saying I want every week for my TradeStation to create a backup of my work. And this will happen automatically in the background. TradeStation doesn't even have to be open. The backup is created automatically based on this schedule. When you start the backup, TradeStation will disconnect itself. Notice how it says that TradeStation backup operation is about to be started. There's a time remaining, which means that TradeStation will be disconnected. So we do recommend that you run the backup only at times when you don't need to trade, because this will take about a minute or two and you're not going to have access to the markets. So when running a backup, make sure you do it when you don't need access to the market at that time. I'm going to cancel out of this, but I just wanted to show you how these backups are created. So let's say, for example, that you create a backup, and backups are great if you want to copy your environment on a different computer. You know, a lot of traders, they trade from home, so they do a lot of analysis at home, and then they want to take that environment over to their office computer. So creating an archive, it's going to allow you to copy an environment and restore it on a different computer. And that way you can continue working on that environment. The way that you restore one of these backup files is by going to the File menu, going to Backup Restore TradeStation, and you have the option to restore a TradeStation archive. Once I click there, it's going to ask me, okay, where the archive is. So I click on Browse, locate the archive. Notice how it'll default to the TradeStation Archives folder. I have no archives there, but just make sure that you know where the archive is. In fact, if you do create a backup of TradeStation, our recommendation is that you take that archive file and move it outside of the computer to be completely safe. You never know what's going to happen to your hard drive. And if you keep your archives in the same hard drive of the computer that you're working on, there's always, a chance that a hardware failure may not give you access to your archive. So taking that archive file and saving it to a USB flash drive, or you can take the file and email it to yourself, as long as you have access to the file and not have to depend on your computer's hard drive, that's the best practice. Let me show you one more functionality, which is run macros using hotkeys and toolbars, which a lot of TradeStation users are not aware that this exists on TradeStation, but I think it's great functionality, especially if you are, running specific commands on a regular basis. This is going to save you a lot of time. Let me go ahead and change this chart to something different. I'm going to do applied materials. Okay, I'm going to open this up a little bit. Let's say, for example, that you're always in the need of inserting an indicator. We can create a macro that is associated with a hotkey combination that every time you press the hotkey, it inserts the moving average for you. Otherwise, if you want to insert a moving average, you have to go to Studies. You have to click on Add Studies. Then you have to come over here, look for moving average from the list of indicators that are available. One thing that you do have to make a note of is the exact name of the indicator, because if you're going to create a macro, the macro needs to point to the exact name of the indicator. I'm going to show you how quickly you can create this macro and where to go to find all the different commands that you can use inside of a macro. So if I highlight the moving average one line and I click OK, of course the line is going to go on my chart. Let me simplify that process. I'm going to remove it. I'm going to come over here to the top of TradeStation, go to the View menu, and under Shortcuts, you have the options to click on Macros. By the way, we have some macros that are already built into the platform that I encourage everyone here to take a look at. You know, we have command line macros. Here are the two categories. Command line macros, and we have order entry macros. Over here to the right, we can create a new one. So I'm going to create a new macro. This is the wizard. It's going to ask me what type of macro I want. Let me show you a simple command line macro. Order entry macros we're going to talk about tomorrow, and how you can place a trade using an order entry macro. For now, let me show you the command line. I'm going to say next, and it says type the command line commands. You know, at this point, there's got to be an understanding of what are the commands that are available in TradeStation that you can use. And if you look at the information that's right here below, it says commands must be preceded with a period and use a double semicolon to separate multiple commands. So if you're not aware of the commands that you can use here, go to the help. See, this window has a help button. Let me show you where it takes you. All right, so let me pull this up. It takes me to the documentation that we have for the platform. It gives you a little bit of a description of what is a command line macro. But what I wanted to point out to you is this command line reference, all commands. Or you can do command line reference sorted by application. So let's do this one sorted by application. Let me click here, and this opens up this topic where I can look at all the different commands that are available for, let's say, chart analysis. So if I click on chart analysis, it'll scroll down to that section, and this is the short command right here on this column, short command, and some of those commands have a parameter. So if I look at this command, that's insert analysis technique, the abbreviation is IAT, .IAT, and then it has a P inside, these greater than and less than symbols, which is the name of the study. So I know that the command is .IAT, and then I have to provide the name of the study that I want to insert. So let me go back to my TradeStation, and I'm going to say .IAT. By the way, as you type, you're going to see all the different macros that are already created for you. I'm not going to use them for now, but I just typed in .IAT, which is the command, and then I type in the name of the moving average. Moving average, one line, and that's it. I just want this macro to do that, to insert a moving average. If you wanted to create a macro that does multiple things, then you have to insert the multiple commands, but separated by double semicolons, as the instructions say. Use a double semicolon to separate multiple commands. Let's just leave it as it is right now because I want to keep it as simple as possible. So I'm going to click Next here. I'm going to type a name for this macro. It's going to go Insert Moving Average. So the name cannot have any spaces, and that's why I created just one word, Insert MOVAVG. I'm going to click Next. And I have the option to have a confirmation window, which I do not want, so I'm just going to uncheck that. It's just going to play a beep. That's fine. And I just click on Finish. So I just created a macro that inserts a moving average. Now, how do you run it? Well, in the list of macros, I find the one that I just created, Insert Moving Average, and I click on Hotkeys. In the Hotkeys dialog, there's a box here that says Press New Hotkey, so I'm just going to click in there. And using my keyboard, I'm going to press the hotkey that I want for this macro. I'm going to do Control-Alt-I. You can see how the letters go inside the box. Once I have it in there, I just click on Assign, and it says, or it moves that information to the current hotkey. So let me go ahead and click on Close now that I've assigned the hotkey, and close over here. So I just created a macro that inserts a moving average, and I assigned that macro to Control-Alt-E. So guess what happens when I press Control-Alt-I on my keyboard? I'll show you. Control-Alt-I, and I have a moving average on the chart. As a recap, if there's something that you do regularly and you have to go through the menus and find it and click it and you want to automate this process, you can create a macro that does that action and then assign a hotkey. So let me repeat that again. Let me remove this moving average. And if I do Control-Alt-I, I have the moving average in place. If you want your macro to be run by a toolbar button, remember that to customize the toolbar, we have to go here to this little drop down, click Customize right there. And this list will also have your command line macros. Here's the one that I just created. This is the one that I just named, Insert Moving Average. So if I click on that one and I move it up here to my toolbar, it'll add a custom toolbar or a custom tool to my toolbar. So this is my toolbar button. So if I click on it, it adds the moving average as well. Let me remove this and show it to you one more time. I click on the toolbar button and it adds a moving average for me. And this applies to all the different commands in TradeStation. So I do recommend that you go back into the command list. Let me show you where it is again. Let me go to View, Shortcuts, Macros. So we are in the Create. When you are in the window where you have to type in a command, then you click on Help, and it'll take you to the Help document with the links to the command reference line. Right here it is. You have all the commands you can use. If you go here to the Help, there's two topics that I want to highlight. So if I click on the default order entry layout, this will give you access to the keys that you have to press on TradeStation in order to generate some trades. There are some commands and some macros that are built into the platform. So when you get a chance, come over here and see what keys need to be pressed in order to generate a trade. For example, if you see here, there's a buy market, which is assigned to the F9 key. Now, if I go over here to my TradeStation, let me close out of this, and I press the F9 key, it'll give me a message that says order entry macros are locked. So by default, a lot of this functionality is locked. And I can say unlock order entry macros for future macro orders. So if I unlock the order entry and I click OK, when I click on F9 again, it's giving me this message, would you like to run the buy market macro? And if I say yes, it generates an order for me right here on the right hand side. In fact, it bought 500 shares of applied materials at market. There's again, let me bring that up here on TradeStation. There's a layout already built into the platform with keys that are order entry related. Come here, take a look at the different orders that are available, but pressing these keys on your keyboard will generate trades. If you're a keyboard person, this will come very handy, but if you want to choose different hotkeys to send different orders, you can do that as well. And I want to close that trade. I believe it is F10. Let me click on my TradeStation. Let me do F10. Would you like to run the sell market macro? And I say yes. And you can see how the order goes away from the chart. When you set up your workspaces and you set up your desktops, TradeStation remembers everything that you left open. So let me close this workspace. I'm not going to save the changes. So I have these two workspaces right here. If I exit out of TradeStation by clicking on the X on the top right corner, I'm going to say yes to all. And it closes out of my TradeStation, right? Let me open it up again. And you can see that it's going to open up exactly the way I left it. Let me type in my password. I'm going to do simulated trading. Okay, and I see a question in the chat. Is the class available on YouTube? It will. You know, once we finish the recording or finish the class, we're going to produce it and upload it not only to the website, but also on YouTube. Just search for Learning TradeStation in our channel, and you should have access to it. So this is opening up. You can see that it's trying to open my workspace and all the different apps that I had open. And this is just to demonstrate that TradeStation remembers the way that you left TradeStation, and it's going to open it up the same way you left it. Now it's opened up my second workspace. And there it is. I can click on the two tabs again. This is controlled by a setting that is available from the File menu, Preferences, and you go to the TradeStation desktop. I think we came here at the beginning of the class to display the title bars on the windows. But if you go to the desktop, you're going to see that there's a Workspace tab that opens all the workspaces when you start up TradeStation. So in Startup, open all workspaces from previous session. And then you have another one for desktops. So if you are the type of TradeStation user that has multiple desktops on your computer, you can come here and select all desktops from previous session, desktops that you have created on your TradeStation platform. Thank you everyone for your time. I really hope that the information was clear. And again, the video is going to be uploaded to our website so you can view it as many times as needed and practice the functionality at your own pace. Thank you everyone, and I hope to see you tomorrow on our second class of the Learning TradeStation series, Order Entry Tools and Preferences. Good night everyone. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.